A 30-year-old running back going to a team that never throws to running backs, and he's coming off his worst season in 6 years, and people are pretty excited about it. Welcome to Fantasy Football Today on Wednesday morning. Free agency rolls on, and now it is official. 5 of the top 7 running backs in last season's ADP are on different teams. Eckler, Barkley, Pollard, Jacobs, and Derrick Henry. And the gang is back together. Jamie, Heath, and Dave are here, so we will talk about mostly Derrick Henry, the Diontae Johnson trade, him going to the Panthers, what it means for him, what it means for George Pickens, etc. Joe Mixon to the Texans. And then, I don't know, we got tight end news. We got Gerald Everett to the Bears. That was interesting. So, well, good morning, guys. Heath, you said something I thought very astute.
Oh.
On the mic. It was shaping up to be one of our most boring mic checks. I was like, all right, mic check, Dave. And Dave's like, let's talk about Derrick Henry's value on the Ravens. I was like, mic check, Jamie.
That sounded just like me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then Heath said something much more interesting. What did you say?
I feel like everybody's more excited about the running backs that change teams than I am.
Yeah. How do you guys generally feel about all of these running backs who have changed teams?
They're nice people.
Maybe.
I think I feel like Saquon and Josh Jacobs are going to be fantasy starters.
Derrick Henry's going to be a fantasy starter too.
He is, but I don't want to draft him as a top 20 running back. A 30-year-old guy changing teams? Like, that sounds like a
I won't
for
be
disaster.
drafting much of Derrick Henry.
Well, wait, are you saying top 20 draft pick wise or top 20 running back rank?
Running back. I'm out.
Yeah, you're not going to. Someone's going to take him.
I'm out on Aaron Jones. I'm out on Eckler.
Yeah,
I'm very lukewarm on Mixon, Pollard, and Swift.
Derrick Henry.
Why don't you just name the running backs that you do want to draft?
That's the thing. Who the heck do we like it, right?
Like, you're going to paint yourself into a corner where you're going to end up taking running backs earlier.
No, I'm saying I would rather take Rashad White and James Cook and Isaiah Pacheco.
Sure, but those are going to be round 2, 3, maybe 4 picks in the case of Cook.
Right.
They're not going around 2.
3, 4, I think.
I bet you'll see some drafts with Pacheco and White in late round 2.
I'd be very surprised. You think those guys are going to be drafted over Derrick Henry?
Well, I think they should be.
I agree. I don't think they're going to be, though.
No, then we'll see.
I would take those guys over Pollard. I would take those guys over Swift. I would take
yes. Yeah. I'm with you on that. But you're basically going to be down to about, I don't know, maybe 15 running backs that you'll be happy to take.
Yep, agreed.
Dave, remember when you took
somebody who's going to go 0 RB?
Dave, remember when you took 4 running backs with your first 6 picks? That was
I thought about that a lot. Like, forget about like who I took, but like conceptually, and I've done a couple of other mock drafts away from you guys. I kind of like what's left at wide receiver. I think the depth at receiver is way, way better than the depth at running back once you get past the middle point of the draft. Not that these guys are going to be great anyway, but I think there's a little bit more like upside, promise, younger wide receivers. And we still haven't done a mock draft with the rookies yet. And that's just going to push so many of these guys down.
For me, the fun thing about specifically Henry, Mixon, I guess those two, I forget Barkley and Jacobs are in a different tier right now, but Henry and Mixon, I could make a lot of cases for both of them now and against. Let me give you a good case for Derrick Henry. For one thing, if you kind of look at the advanced numbers, one of the areas that he's been worse at in the last few years is yards before contact per carry. Well, he's going to get a pretty big offensive line upgrade, so that might help. He's still good after contact. He's not as good, but he's still been good. Of course, he's 30. Also, how about this? I was trying to take a look. Is Baltimore a good spot for a running back? Because it hasn't been since Mark Ingram in 2019. We haven't had a great fantasy running back. But in the last 5 seasons of the Lamar Jackson era, the Ravens have been top 11 in just running back rushing yards in 4 of those 5 seasons. And they have, in those 5 years, they have 50 rushing touchdowns from the 1 to the 3 yard line, or from 3 yards out or closer, if you want to call that a goal line carry. 50 of them just from running backs. That's the second most in the NFL in that span behind the Detroit Lions. Lamar Jackson, as much as he runs, he doesn't run much near the goal line. They had
Correct.
15 rushing touchdowns from 1 to 3 yards out last year alone, most of them from Gus Edwards. The problem is they've been bottom 4 in running back targets each of the last 5 years. But I was surprised at how many rushing yards and rushing touchdowns there have been just from Ravens running backs in the Lamar Jackson era. I knew the touchdowns, I kind of knew. The yards I was surprised by. So it's kind of interesting.
Here's my question when comparing the Ravens running backs over the last 4 years. Gus Edwards had averaged 5 yards per carry every year of his career. Greg Roman left, and he averaged 4.1. How much of the rushing efficiency from the Ravens was Greg Roman's system? And how much was Lamar?
I'm sure that's a part of it. Also, Gus Edwards coming off an ACL tear too. Let's be fair. At 28, right? Or was he 29?
He was 28 last year, yeah, I think.
So, a little older, a little slower. I think that kind of factors into it too. What was Keaton Mitchell at?
10
He
points.
had a bunch of
Right.
Yes.
So, you want to balance it out from a system standpoint, for an explosive guy versus maybe a little bit more of a plotter, more so than he was beforehand. I think the thing you just got to look at with Derrick Henry and Heath, I think if I saw in the story you wrote, what'd you give him? Like 1,111 touchdowns. I saw a lot of 11 touchdowns. What yards you give him?
Yeah, 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns.
Yeah, I probably would lean slightly over if he stays healthy on both numbers, but it's just a matter of, can he stay healthy at 30 years old? I mean, it's got to be something. Again, similar to Mike Evans, we have these guys that are sort of the outliers to these situations, and maybe Derrick Henry is one of those guys. He did play, despite some of the flaws last year, and we could talk about when leading, when trailing, how he performed overall behind a bad offensive line. He still had a very good season for a guy at 29 years old, and so it's a great situation. It's a great upgrade for him all across the board from what he typically does. I don't think anybody is drafting him with the idea of him becoming a significant pass catcher. It's just not the reason why you look at Derrick Henry. But can he stay successful despite the fact that he's continuing to get older? And so at the right cost, I would be interested in him, but that's probably somewhere middle to the end of round 3 at the earliest. And most likely round 4 is where I would start to look at him. And like Dave said earlier, I don't think he's getting that far. I think he's going to still be a second round pick. I mean, we sat here last year and said, terrible situation, older running back, and he was still taken in the second round. And so better situation for him this year, even though he's older, people are going to get excited. I mean, you can't look anywhere right now, from analysts to fantasy players. Everybody's excited about this situation for the most part.
I'm not that excited about it, but that's because
I'm telling you, we are in the minority here about being down.
We put the Twitter poll up. Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to go to the Twitter polls in a second here. I'd be more excited about it, I guess, if everybody else weren't so excited about it. Like, I just feel like we should be reasonably excited about it. But he was a second round pick, Derrick Henry, last year, and it was a mistake. On a per game basis, he was RB 13 in non PPR, RB 16 in half PPR, and RB 18 in full PPR. And it was almost entirely game script dependent. I think he probably averaged about 20 points per game when the Titans either won or lost by 4 or fewer points. In any other
the Ravens are losing many games this year.
No, I get it. But I think Henry, agree or disagree. He's going to be, this is what I took away from the stat I gave earlier. He's going to be really touchdown dependent, but he's going to have a lot of opportunities to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. But also, I don't think you can talk about Henry's ADP without making it format specific. He might be the most format specific player in fantasy.
Oh, he might be a round 1 pick in non-PPR.
When you say that, are you saying you're taking him in round 1, or do you think the ADP will be round 1?
And I'll go back to something I said yesterday about the receivers when we were talking about. I didn't say that. I don't anticipate St. Brown going ahead of Chase. It wasn't about who's going to be better. It was about based on ADP. Same thing. I'm saying right now, I think people are going to draft Derrick Henry in round 2. People are going to draft Derrick Henry in round 1 in non-PPR. I think that's the excitement level that we're going to get.
Man, I have so many things to ask you guys about here.
Yeah, there's so much more to say.
Well, all right, let's go to the Twitter polls. I just did want to promote. We have a lot of other great podcasts that you should be listening to right now, and it's an awesome time. If you want to hear about the quarterback prospects, check out the With the First Pick podcast, Ryan Wilson and Rick Spielman. And I was just reading about Daniil Hunter yesterday, getting that contract with the Texans, and I wonder, is that Rick Spielman's best draft pick, former GM for the Vikings. Really, that turned out to be a total
No, he
gem.
drafted Justin Jefferson, right?
I know, but he drafted him in the first round. Hunter was, what was he? Third,
Drafted
fourth round
Stephon
pick?
Diggs in the 5th round.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he did.
Signed
Okay.
Adam Thielen as a free agent.
Not his best draft pick, but up there. He's had some real
He's
great
had
ones.
some gems.
So listen to him break down the quarterback prospects and everything else on With the First Pick. Fantasy baseball today, right now. We have Beyond the Arc, a new basketball podcast. You want to see it all, go to cbssports.com/podcast. Okay. Fun with Twitter polls. So this one was Heath's. Full PPR redraft. Where are you drafting Derrick Henry? First 3 rounds is winning with 45% of the vote. Round 4, about 35% of the vote. Round 5 or later, 16% of the vote. See results, the cowards, 4.5% of the vote. So what would you guys vote for? Full PPR redraft. Where are you drafting Derrick Henry? First 3 rounds, round 4, or round 5 or later?
I voted for round 4. I'd love to get him then. I think when you get him in late round 3 or round 4, you're minimizing the risk. Like when you're taking him round 2, you're drafting him so close to his ceiling. You're hoping for like 18 PPR points per game. And I think you have to mitigate that. I think you've got to knock him down a little bit just because of the situation he's in. We're going to talk about his age 100 times. I kind of feel like I don't know if I can buy into the age being a negative as much because the dude is just a machine.
Father
Like, the
Time
only
is
time he
undefeated.
didn't play was when his foot broke. Like I don't think that that's because of old age. I think that was just a freak thing. And he's a total freak. He's a cyborg. So I'm probably looking at somewhere between like 33rd, 43rd. Round 3 is where I'd love to take him if I get 2 receivers to start my draft. And then in round 3, I'm looking for a running back. He's the guy I'd go to. But I voted round 4.
I understand. Heath, Jamie, round 3, round 4, first 3 rounds, round 4, round 5 or later for Derrick Henry in full PPR.
4 at the earliest for me.
Yeah, I probably would have picked C results. I'm not sure between 4 and 5 yet.
What a wimp. Yeah, you know, people are going to talk about Henry's age, and he has over 2,000 carries. But I wonder, I mean, should we really be talking about if he can stay healthy when, you know, young guys get hurt all the time? Right? Is it fair to put that label on an older player?
Older players tend to get hurt more often. So
I don't know. Is that true? I feel like we say that. I don't know if it's actually true.
Well, I
it's
mean,
older
I'm sure
people.
there's data that suggests, you know, players in their first, 2 seasons that get hurt early in their careers and never play again. There's not a lot of games played to attach to those type of guys. But
Yeah, but they count in this. I have no idea what the data.
It's not just the injury risk,
Right.
It's at 30, even starting at 29 or 28 even, but definitely 29 and 30. The chances that all of a sudden you turn into Dalvin Cook and you're just completely dust.
Just go right back to the Austin Eckler conversation that we had, where he looked okay in week 1, and by the time you got to his second best run of the year, he looked like the slowest player alive.
Yes.
Right.
And
so,
yeah.
but that's the thing that I worry less about with Henry, because we've never known him to be like a 4.3 type of runner. He's a physical bully. He can rack up the acceleration, and he can still pick up huge chunks of yards. And on top of that, he's a machine at the goal line on a team that gets to the goal line a lot.
I haven't asked you about Mixon, but I assume you're drafting Henry ahead of Mixon right now.
Yes.
I'd probably rather have Mixon.
I would lean Henry slightly.
You just say see results if you want. I think that's
if you can't decide, you can decide.
All right, let's take a quick break here. I have 2 more X polls, 2 more Twitter polls for you, and we'll get through the rest of the news. And
Twix.
Another. Oh, okay, I like that. Another
half Twitter, half X, all delicious.
Another fun Twix from Heath about running backs who have benefited over the last 24 hours. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, 2 more Twix polls. Derrick Henry to the Ravens and Diontae Johnson to the Panthers in a full PPR league. Who are you drafting first? Derrick Henry or George Pickens? This is a landslide. 75% saying Derrick Henry. I thought it would be closer. I mean, Pickens could have 70 more catches than Derrick Henry. I don't even know, but
He could also have 10 fewer touchdowns.
I think, I'm going to take Pickens here, and I like his chances a lot of scoring more touchdowns this year than he has in his career.
Why?
Because Russell Wilson, even when Russell Wilson's not been good, Russell Wilson's generally produced a high touchdown rate. I think George Pickens can be a better version of Courtland Sutton.
Right. So what's his career high in touchdowns? He's only
5.
been 2 years. It's 5. So expecting 6 or 7 touchdowns.
No, I said he has 9 in his career. I think he could score 9+ this year.
Okay. That's a team that also likes to run inside the 5. If he becomes his version of Courtland Sutton / Tyler Lockett, then Pickens is absolutely the right answer.
Yeah, just a couple things real quick. We're doing this poll. It's in PPR. Who would you rather have, Derrick Henry or George Pickens? I think we can sit here and say the Steelers are probably going to add someone, but let's just do it as it is right now. And then, I mentioned this stat the other day. Russell Wilson threw more touchdown passes last year than the Steelers have thrown as a team in the last 2 seasons combined. Jamie, who would you vote for here? And let me give you one more stat. He played 4 games, George Pickens, without Diontae Johnson. And in those 4 games, he had 127, 75, 25, and 130 yards. He had huge games against Cleveland and Baltimore. He had a 29% target share and a 26.4% target per route run rate. That is elite or close to it. So with this leading question, then, who would you have, George Pickens or Derrick Henry in PPR?
I'd rather have Pickens.
And Dave, who'd you say?
I have Henry ranked higher.
All right, but that's interesting that 2 of the 3 of you said Pickens and 75% of the respondents said Derrick Henry.
I think the theme of this offseason might be like us being lower on these veteran running backs that change teams than the consensus. And I feel really good about that if that is the theme.
Are you also that way with Jacobs and Barkley, Heath? Because you didn't talk about them on this show.
They are not. No. I mean, I don't know whether they're going to be. I think they're both borderline RB1s. I feel good with both of them at the 2-3 turn. So I might be a little lower, but I think that's right about where they should be.
Okay. One more Twitter poll, Twix poll. Joe Mixon to the Texans, Tony Pollard to the Titans, DeAndre Swift to the Bears. Who are you drafting first? Mixon, Swift, or Pollard? And the results are Mixon, again, in a landslide. Heath's Twix poll was a lot closer than my two. Mixon, 62%. Pollard, 15%. Swift, second place, actually, with 23%. So Mixon crushing Swift and then Pollard. How about you guys? Who are you drafting first? Jamie?
Mixon.
Dave?
Joseph.
And Heath?
Absolutely Joe Mixon, yes. Pollard would be second for me.
All right. Can Joe Mixon be a top 12 running back again? He's done it 5 of the last 6 seasons per game.
It's a very good offense.
Yes.
Yeah, he could be.
Oh, man. Yeah, again, you can make cases for him. You can make cases against him. Does Dameon Pierce factor in, Heath? Do you think
he could be like, and I hope this is not it, and I'll just poke fun at myself. Like, he could also be Miles Sanders, but those are the 2 range of outcomes. I think he's 28 years old. There's a chance that he gets there and things don't go well as well, but he definitely, it's a good offense, much better offense than I think the Bears or Titans are going to be. Good run scheme that made Devin Singletary look good in the second half. And I still think Joe Mixon's better than Devin Singletary.
Yeah, agreed.
No offense, Adam.
No, Joe. I don't know about that.
I know.
I think, Mixon at least has shown that he can.
Well, Singletary got a lot better in the last week for sure.
Singletary, let me just tell you what Singletary did for the Texans, and we can maybe use it as a baseline for Joe Mixon. If you just give me one moment here.
I've got the touches.
Well, I'll tell you where he finished as okay. So his first 7 games, that was Dameon Pierce time. Joe Mixon or Devin Singletary had only 49 carries in those 7 games. The next 3 games were without Dameon Pierce, and he scored 4.6 points against the Bucs, and then Singletary scored 23 points against the Bengals and 20 points against the Cardinals in PPR. He had 52 carries and 3 catches in those 2 games. Last 7 games of the season, you get a little bit from Dameon Pierce. You get about 5 carries per game from Dameon Pierce. You get Devin Singletary, who was just inside the top 24 overall, but just inside the top 30 per game. He was on pace for 248 carries, 44 catches, about 1,400 total yards, which is good, but he was only on pace for 5 touchdowns, but very solid. And he averaged 4.2 yards per carry, which, by the way, would be one of the best marks of the career of Joe Mixon. So, that's a 292 touch running back with only 5 touchdowns. You'd expect that to go up, but I don't know. That's what Devin Singletary was. Let's call him a number 2, low end number 2 running back.
I hear 292 touches, and I think high end number 2.
Or
low end number 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're also talking about a running back in Mixon who's a much better pass catcher than Singletary. Not that Mixon's going to be, I don't know if they're going to use him on 3rd downs. They didn't with Singletary, and the Bengals didn't use Mixon on 3rd downs. So that's something that has to be played out. Are they going to, is Houston going to draft another running back, or, bring back Dario Gumbo-Wale for those 3rd downs? Who the hell knows? But I think that they can call more pass plays and use Mixon in them and feel good about it compared to Devin Singletary.
It was it's a great landing spot, though, for what happened to him. When you talk about the situation, like, this was one of the premier destinations to end up, and he ended up in it.
Right. Like, we were hoping Saquon would go here.
Correct.
And now it's Mixon. It's going to be Mixon for a year, by the way, because they don't have to resign him.
They didn't have a great offensive line by metrics last year, but you could see they got some good young pieces. They could have a good line. And I think when you talk about Miles Sanders, and we can look at these 3 running backs in the poll, Mixon, Pollard, and Swift, and you say you're worried Mixon could be the next Miles Sanders. I think the big difference is Miles Sanders went from an elite offensive line to a terrible one.
With a bad quarterback.
Bad coaching staff, bad everything.
But Mixon never had a good offensive line. At best, he had like a below average offensive line in Cincinnati. So perhaps we can excuse him a little bit in that regard. So I think he's going to get an upgrade there, at least.
On paper, yes.
Yes.
So who's the most likely to be the next Miles Sanders among those 3? Mixon, Pollard, or Swift?
Swift.
I would say Pollard.
The guy leaving Philadelphia.
It's not like leaving Dallas is a good thing.
That's true.
I'd lean Pollard over Swift, but both. You can make the case for both of them.
Right. I would say
make the case for all 3.
With Pollard, he's going offensive line downgrade, quarterback downgrade, and maybe the most significant competition. Not that Khalil Herbert and Rashawn Johnson are not competition for DeAndre Swift, but Tyjae Spears may be better than Pollard.
I'm not ready to say that Titans offensive line is going to be bad again. They've got the right coach there. They've already added new pieces.
Definitely
to it.
Upgrade.
They could be hold on to your butts, middle of the pack as far as offensive line goes next year.
Sure. Center upgrades, Skoronski healthy.
The Bears. See, this is where I don't even know what to make of this. PFF has the Bears last year run blocking 23rd. ESPN run block win rate, they were 2nd. So we'll see. Okay. Anything else you want to say about Mixon here? Do you think he gets 50 catches?
I think it's possible, yes.
I would say 40.
I projected 43.
I think we should talk about what round we want to draft Joe Mixon in. And is there a Twitter poll, Twix poll, X poll?
Same round as Henry, round 4. Earliest.
3-4 turn sounds fine.
Yeah, I'm thinking 4, maybe early round 5 if you're lucky, but round 4 is probably going to be
we talked about this last week with Mike Evans, how he's going to end up in round 3. And that's the guy I keep kind of comparing these running backs to, because it's an old wide receiver and the old run game. Do you want Mike Evans or do you want Joe Mixon? Do you want Mike Evans or do you want Derrick Henry? Most of the time I'm saying Mike Evans.
Yeah, but now take that Mike Evans question and make it the 3 disappointing young receivers from last year.
All the young receivers.
Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, and Devontae Smith.
Smith would be behind them, but I'd rather have the other two.
I think I'd have Higgins behind them, but I'd rather have the other two.
You
I've
said
got
this
Waddle.
yesterday in regards to Zach Moss. Like, is he going to be the third? I think it's a very fun exercise to predict the ADP of these guys that change teams.
We're doing a mock next week, I assume.
Yeah, we will. The order.
Yeah. All
I
right.
think
Tomorrow,
Jacobs 1,
Jacobs 1, I agree.
Barkley 2,
Right behind Jacobs.
Henry will be 3.
I've got Mixon 3, but okay.
No, I'm not saying what you have.
Right.
I'm saying,
Okay.
I'm saying what
In the order.
You're predicting?
Henry 3.
Yeah, I think so. You don't think there's going to be some people that go so gaga for Henry that they take him first? Casuals, people that don't
We're
listen.
talking hour mocks right now, aren't we?
No,
No,
ADP. ADP.
ADP.
I think Eckler might be 4 then.
Right. Like the same people who take quarterback
No,
in round one.
I think Mixon will be 4 because people
Okay.
still draft Mixon high.
Yeah.
But after
Yeah.
this, it gets interesting because then you have Eckler, you have Aaron Jones. They're still very much, name value. You brought up yesterday, Adam, again, Zach Moss situation.
I think it's Swift is 5.
You think Swift is 5?
I don't know. I have no idea how to read that one, but this is ADP. This is not our rankings. I
Yep.
think Swift ends up 5. Just
Or
a
an
guess.
agreement on the 4, no matter the order? Or he said
I completely agree with you. Jacobs, Barkley, Henry, Mixon, ADP. That would be how I would expect it to be. Heath and Dave, can you sign off on that?
What'd you say?
Jacobs, Barkley, Henry, Mixon, that ADP.
It could be Barkley
Sure.
first too, because Philly's a great destination for him.
Yeah, I would guess Barkley first. But other than that, I think that's the top 4.
So then the next group would be of the guys that change teams. So it'd be, and this is not the order. I'm just Pollard, Eckler, Swift, Jones, Moss, Singletary, right? Those are the guys?
Yeah.
Singletary should be 3rd, actually. I'm sorry. Should be ahead.
It's a great situation.
I think it goes
For now.
Jones, Eckler, Moss, Swift, Pollard, Singletary.
And that's not what you think it should be. That's what you think.
Correct. Again, you're going to hear Jones, starting running back, Minnesota Vikings, Eckler, most likely starting running back, Washington Commanders. Those names still carry value.
Okay, that is tough. What do you guys think? Who's 5 after Jacobs, Barkley, Henry, Mixon?
I think it's
Eckler.
Jones.
I was surprised to hear Eckler. You think 5th. Jamie thinks 6th. He thinks 5th. Jamie thinks 6th. I thought there would be not a lot of Eckler enthusiasm.
There's none here.
So
Yeah,
Dave,
again, not how we're going to rank it. I just think like Heath is probably going by the name, right? You think the name
Right.
will carry value? No.
they all have names though, technically.
Right.
I mean, God, this is a tough one. I'm can't wait to start doing some mocks. Are any of these next group after the big 4, are any of them worth a 5th round pick?
No.
Maybe Moss, if you like him.
I'm not sure if he's the best back in Cincinnati.
I agree, but still, it's a guy that helped a lot of people last year. Great situation if he's healthy.
Yeah, if things break right, he falls into Joe Mixon's workload.
I gotta say, I'm starting to. You just by doing this ADP exercise, I'm feeling a little better about Aaron Jones. I feel like he makes sense as the 5th guy.
Well, if you're getting him in late round 6 or round 7, again, like what we talked about with Derrick Henry, you're mitigating that risk. This is a guy who has broken down and has.
Do you know they missed the same amount of games in their career?
Maybe, but last year, what I say yesterday was Jones missing 6 games and then parts of 3 others. Can't argue about the way he played at the end of the year, but he's not going to play that way every week. And I'm also I don't know if Minnesota's not going to add another running back.
Well, all these teams can still add running backs. I mean, that's
Where
It's
does
just-
Raheem
it's just the
Mostert
running
fit in
backs
with
that
these
they
guys?
add. The running backs that they add aren't going to be like, so good or so promising that it just renders the veteran useless.
Heath, I don't have the bandwidth for that right now. I mean,
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, why would I draft Aaron Jones over Raheem Mostert?
catches.
Oh, Devon Achane. That's why.
Maybe.
Of all these guys, Jacobs, Barkley, Henry, Mixon, Aaron Jones, Eckler, Zach Moss, DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, I feel like the one that I have the least amount of clarity on, just personally, is DeAndre Swift. I don't know how they're going to cut that backfield up. I don't know who the goal line back is going to be. I don't know who the pass catching back is going to be. I mean, it's not going to be Herbert. I know that, but is it going to be Roshan? I don't know what Caleb Williams is. I'm assuming it's going to be him, what he's going to bring to the table, if he's going to be a goal line factor. That's the one that is such a wild card to me. I don't know how you guys, what do you think about that? What do you think about
it's crowded. That's the thing that sucks. If they're going to, keep all three guys, you wonder what their short-term and long-term plan is. It doesn't feel like they have a good one based on how they're holding on to Justin Fields right now. But it's very convoluted situation as we sit here today until we get to training camp and hopefully get a little more clarity. Dave keeps saying round 6, round 7 for these guys. I don't think they get there, Dave.
Right.
I really think that people just get we just think about everything that's happened in the last couple of days and how we started this conversation. Like what you said to Heath about not being excited about these guys. People are going to see the thinning out of this position, and I think it's going to push up some of these ADPs. Whereas, for the not the novice per se, but I think the sort of newbie still, has only been playing this a year or two, that they're going to say, I need to get my running backs, and they're going to take them early because they know the names. That's why I think Derrick Henry's a round 2 pick. I think Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler get pushed up a round or two based on their past performances. If you watch the playoffs and you saw that 3-touchdown game against Dallas, say, oh my God, he's now the starting running back in Minnesota. I think those guys just get the value gets too soon.
And I think it's a conversation of like, which ADP are you looking at too? Because for best ball ADP, for high stakes ADP, I think like that round 6, 7 probably is accurate. But when we talk of like just standard CBS ADP in August, I think, they're definitely going to creep up.
But I got to say, last year we did see a shift for the first time, I think, since I've been doing this job of running backs really being pushed down. It was the fewest running backs in the first 2 rounds that I can remember. And it was a big central theme to all of our previews, right? Where we were talking about, you can get value at running back this year. People are not taking them so early. So I give the fantasy community credit for that one, right? They were right. And it was the best 0 RB year ever for a variety of reasons. And I wonder if that continues. Not all of those guys are going to be available in round 6 or 7, but some of them will. I mean, I think Zach Moss could fall there, and I certainly think Tajay Spears could fall there. I know we haven't talked about him.
Oh, Spears will be later than that. That's the problem. Is like that's where the value will lie. In terms of some of these backups. So Spears, Chase Brown. Not really. I don't think anybody's taking Keaton Mitchell coming off an ACL tear, thinking that Derrick Henry's going to miss time. But the second tier guys, and then the fallout of this, the Zamir Whites of the world, where these guys I think are where the experienced player is going to sort of look to get some of these running backs and the value at these running backs. So like Spears, Ty Chandler, the second tier guys, I think those guys go closer to round 10.
Is this where okay, I don't think Devin Singletary is going to make it to round 10, but I'm trying to think of other running backs. Chuba Hubbard, if he somehow makes it out of training camp as the Panthers lead guy. We're talking about running backs that aren't as well known. Much bigger mystery boxes than some of the other guys with well-known names who are becoming mystery boxes themselves. And if you're comfortable with that group of running backs, and we'll dig into them over the next several months, then that'll encourage you to go 0 RB because you're going to be able to pick from a whole slew of them. And there's going to be a lot of rookie running backs in that mix too, because I don't think there's a lot of rookie running backs that are going to be like pushed up into the top 30, top 50. And
there's 2 spots available where you could see a rookie running back being overpriced. Dallas and the Chargers.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I got to take a break here. I have one more Twix poll to talk about when we get back. It is Saquon Barkley versus Josh Jacobs. The results are pouring in right now. Okay, we'll let you know what the people are thinking after this break.
The blackout mystery remains.
Welcome to March Madness. Oh, you just never know in the tournament who is going to shine.
Stream March Madness live on any device, anywhere, and be ready for anything.
Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs? We predicted Jacobs might be ahead of him in ADP. Change everything based on 396 votes. Who are you drafting first? Saquon Barkley has 60%. Josh Jacobs has 40%. Let's read some of the comments. Barkley should be a top 5 running back, mid-first round pick from Ben. Ed says this one is way harder than the last poll. Okay, yeah, I think I probably agree with that. Greg Harrell, Hurts is going to vulture too many touchdowns unless the tush push goes away with Kelsey gone. Let's see. Oh, Eric says, thank you for not including C results. You're very welcome. But a lot of people are worried about Barkley losing touchdowns. However, at least in the comments. However, the poll results say that they're not that worried because he's got 60% of the votes. And I did mention the other day that even though, yes, Jalen Hurts is going to steal some touchdowns, the Eagles running backs got a lot more carries inside the 5-yard line than Saquon Barkley has been getting over the last 3 years with the Giants. So sure, he'll lose some touchdowns, but he might score more touchdowns than he did with the Giants because the Eagles are so much better than the Giants have been. And Miles Sanders had, what did I say, 11 touchdowns 2 years ago, 11 rushing touchdowns, I think. So it's possible.
Well, he's also just better than Swift. I mean, let's face it.
Yes, and Swift got tackled at the 1-yard line 6 times last year, and Jalen Hurts scored on a tush push every single time. Yeah. Okay.
I think they're going to continue to get tackled 1 yard short more often than most teams, though, because like they get to a 3rd and 4 or a 2nd and 4, and they're perfectly happy to get 3 yards.
I was going to read.
I think they would like to score.
Yeah,
I think they would too.
I
But
don't know many teams that the goal when they're that close is to get right at the goal line.
well, no, I don't know of any other teams besides them.
Do what?
I think he's saying they're setting up the tush push.
I'm saying they got 4 or 5 yards to go. They know they've got 2 plays to go get it. Like, just go get it within 1 yard and we're fine.
Well, but they're not like intentionally. I mean, they might be calling. They call a more conservative play because
Right.
they know they've got the tush push in their pocket. Yeah,
I'm not saying they're intentionally aiming for 1 yard short. No, but I am. Yes, Adam.
it's not a terrible strategy. You know, you're gonna get in on the next play. It's
Go down at the 1. Go down at the 1.
poor DeAndre Swift. Who do you guys have, Barkley or Jacobs right now?
Jacobs, but it's close.
Jacobs and Barkley are back to back.
I'll go Jacobs.
Who do you guys have now, Jacobs or Travis Etienne?
Jacobs, Barkley, ETN back to back to back. Jack.
Yeah,
ETN first.
especially with Ernest Johnson back. I mean, that kills ETN.
God, it's over.
Oh yeah, all right.
And Bigsby.
I'm going to save Heath's tweet about running backs, veteran running backs who benefited from free agency for, I assume we're going to do a show tomorrow. We're still waiting for Calvin Ridley. That's the biggest name. Marquise Brown as well. Other news. Let's go through some other news right now.
There might be some cuts today that are pretty important for the Chargers.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. So we'll
Mike
keep
Williams is gone.
Let's see. Other news. Let's see. We've got the Patriots signing Jacoby Brissett to a 1-year, $8 million deal. They really want to sign a wide receiver. Minnesota signing Sam Darnold. We did talk about that, I think. Drew Lock to the Giants. Marcus Mariota to the Commanders. Jameis Winston to the Browns. Aaron Rodgers to Vice President. And Tyrod Taylor to the Jets. I would say that Flacco was good, but it's nice to see the Browns and the Jets upgrading at backup quarterback.
Is that an upgrade for the Browns?
Well, it is from the other guys. I would think, honestly, yes. I think if I asked you guys, just even based on what you saw, would you rather have Flacco or Winston?
Flacco.
Would you? Yeah. All right. I don't know if you would have said that a year ago.
Of course not.
No, we would not.
I certainly would have.
Tyrod Taylor, definitely an upgrade for the Jets as a backup quarterback. This I thought was an interesting. Oh, Nyheim Hines to the Browns. Let's do that. Any thoughts on that? Does that matter at all?
None.
No.
Okay. According to Next Gen Stats, this is from ESPN. According to Next Gen Stats, the average carry by a Giants running back was expected to gain 3.5 yards. That was the worst in the NFL. The average carry by an Eagles running back was expected to gain 4.7 yards. best in the NFL. I don't know exactly what goes into that, but that's a 1.2.
No, it's a complex algorithm, but it's useful. And I think you could tell just by watching those two teams play.
Boy, I totally skipped over Diontae Johnson, huh? All right. 4 wide receiver notes real quick. Texans re-signed Noah Brown. Patriots signed Jalen Reagor. Chiefs signed Darnell Mooney. And the Panthers acquired Diontae Johnson.
The Chiefs did not sign Darnell Mooney.
The Falcons had Darnell Mooney. The Chiefs got the Eagles got Devontae Parker.
I said
Chiefs
that.
got Irv Smith.
Oh, I didn't say that one. I did right. Okay, the Falcons got Darnell. Well, I said the Chiefs. Sorry about that.
We can dream.
The Falcons got Darnell. Did the Chiefs sign anyone, or did I just
Irv Smith?
Yeah, I don't. I guess that's. I don't. Was that what I was thinking? I don't know. All right. What about Diontae
Same
Johnson?
guy, you know.
Diontae Johnson, top 30 wide receiver.
Yeah,
Close to it.
No.
Go on.
I think he's a round 8 pick in PPR. I think he leads the Panthers in targets and catches. I think he bounces back from what he did last year. I think the offense will be better. I love the track record of not just one wide receiver with Dave Canales, but 2 over the last 2 seasons when he's rebuilt these quarterbacks. 2 wide receivers have had 100+ targets, maybe even in the neighborhood of like 120+ targets, over 1,000 yards each. In Seattle, 2 receivers had 6 touchdowns each or more. Evans had a huge bounce back year. This is going to be a team that's trailing a lot. Their offensive line is going to be better, and Bryce Young will be used properly. I think he's a real good bet in PPR in round 8, even if he's on your bench to start the year.
I don't think he'll be available that late. There are some Diontae Johnson truthers.
Would you take Kyle Pitts or Diontae Johnson?
Pitts.
Man, no idea. Pitts probably.
How
What
about
if you already
JSN?
What if you already had 2 tight ends on your team? JSN. Okay, JSN. That's a better question. JSN or Diontae Johnson?
Diontae by a lot for me.
Yeah. Who has more upside, do you think?
JSN.
I don't agree with that. I think Diontae could catch, like, his upside. He could have a 100 catch season.
JSN, but it would require an injury.
I've never quite seen splits like Adam Thielen where he finished in non-PPR compared to full PPR. He was number 41 per game in non-PPR and number 24 per game in full PPR, Adam Thielen. He had 103 catches and only 4 touchdowns. Okay, speaking of Bryce Young, he does get some help on the offensive line. We'll talk about that, but some other tight end notes. Really, you got Seattle signing Noah Fant and then Farrell Brown. Chargers getting Will Dissly. Bears giving Gerald Everett a 2-year deal that could be worth up to $14 million. That's obviously the most significant one here. The Patriots signing Hooper. The Chiefs signing Irv Smith Jr. And the Bengals signing Mike Gesicki. What do you think about Gerald Everett going to the Bears?
Stinks, but he's following his offensive coordinator, who he met with LA and then went with to Seattle, and now he's following him along to Chicago. And the reason why it stinks is because this is another mouth that could take away work from Cole Kmet. We spent time this week, I think, talking about how Cole Kmet could be a top 12 tight end. I think the upside is capped a little bit because there's going to be another tight end on the field and one who's been in the system. I don't expect Gerald Everett to be a great fantasy tight end. He's a bye week guy at best. I'm not drafting Gerald Everett, but he does bring down the value of Cole Kmet. IMO.
Anybody else dropping Cole Kmet?
No.
Okay. Any interest in Mike Gesicki?
No.
Yeah. No.
Bye week tight end. Who do the Bengals play in week 1? And is T. Higgins there?
I liked Tanner Hudson. I was a little intrigued by Tanner Hudson. But,
Did they just re-sign Drew Sample too?
Yes.
They do have Drew Sample.
They do go through a lot of tight ends every year.
Small sample, though. Okay, offensive line. Let's talk generally about the teams that upgraded the most at offensive line. Jaguars getting Mitch Morse. The
They got named.
Rams.
I think the Panthers probably
The
upgraded
Panthers-
more than the Jags.
This is not in order.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to take it away? I was just reading from my notes here. But
No.
the Panthers definitely upgraded. They signed Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, both guards, and they had just a dreadful interior offensive line. So that helps. The Rams signing Jonah Jackson is great, and they re-signed Kevin Dotson. Who else? The Giants, I guess, a little bit. Jaguars for sure. Tennessee and Washington. Nick Allegretti from the Chiefs. He was a backup, but they also signed a center, Tyler Biadasz from the Cowboys. That's probably the headliners there.
Damian
The
Lewis.
Rams did the best, followed by the Panthers.
Cool. And then on defense, anything big stuff on defense you want to talk about?
I mean, you mentioned Daniil Hunter. Basically, the Vikings and Texans swapping pass rushers.
Yeah. Looked like a kind of a bad offseason for Houston defensively. And then they signed Daniil Hunter, and they signed Azeez Al-Shire at linebacker, Danico Autry, both those guys from Tennessee. They added Foley Fadukasi, Jeff Okuda. So they built out their depth a little bit. Carolina, Ashawn Robinson at nose tackle and Josie Jewell at linebacker. Not bad there. Vikings had a pretty good week defensively.
Raiders
Washington
might have a good
Except
defense.
they lost to Neil Hunter.
They did, but like we said, they got a good pass rusher in Minnesota. Let me just read all of. They got Jonathan Grenard, Blake Cashman, and Andrew Van Ginkel. Washington had a ton of money, and they've clearly upgraded. Nobody huge, but Jeremy Chin, Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler on defense, some offensive line upgrades.
They
as
got
well.
Luvu from
Oh
Carolina.
yeah, right. Frankie Louvu from Carolina. So that's a big deal. There's a lot. Gets overwhelming. Miami was pretty active too, actually. Jordan Brooks from Seattle, a linebacker. Anthony Walker, another linebacker from
They
Cleveland.
lost so much, though.
They did. Jordan Poyer from the Bills and Shaq Barrett. They really got a lot of guys who are not in their prime. Reminds me a little bit of the, I think it was the Falcons last year. Getting some older guys. Didn't really work. Cool. Well, thank you guys. I'm hoping to do another show tomorrow. And then I don't know if I'm hoping to do a show on Friday. We'll see. But we'll definitely have at least one more show before the end of the day. I've been playing racquetball on Friday mornings. So I kind of like to do that again. Yeah.
Have you considered live streaming?
No. I'm so bad. I'm terrible at racquetball.
I think that would help the viewer numbers, actually.
You have the goggles.
Who do you think you'd beat me in racquetball?
Do I think I would beat you in racquetball? Yeah.
It's Heath minus 350 on the odds makers.
I don't know.
You playing indoor or outdoor?
Indoor. It's
Yeah.
dude, I'm in New York.
That's true.
We don't do outdoor yet. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.
I just
I
keep
promise
remembering the scene in Big when he played racquetball outside.
I've only seen that movie once.
You probably hated it.
No, it's good. But I've been to the theme park that has the original. What is he?
Voltron?
Voltron? Yeah, whatever his name is.
Voltron,
Yeah,
the 5 lions that turn into a big dude.
all right, we are out of here. Goodbye, everybody.
Did you make a wish? Was it actually kind of looked like the kid version of Tom Hanks?
You say I look like Tom Hanks. That would be great.
The kid version.
Thank you very much. All right. There's no crying in racquetball. See ya.
I've never wanted to see a